Okay. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Jay. So yeah, I've been talking about Hindu topics for a while, and because I also have a background in speaking and writing, because I'm basically a marketer by profession, I've started using those skills in the Hindu space. And I also have been a mentor for youth. I started out being a college essay coach, but then has spread to more of general advice, life coach, to a few children, not as a business, as as I get some requests, I've been talking to them. And finally, I'm a mother of three children. So I kind of, have been experimenting on many of these things that I'm going to talk about with my guru's advice. And I just wanted to share it with parents who are also embarking on this journey. Whether you're a parent or somebody who deals with children, I think there are things that I've tried to give it a little bit of a structure. The reason for this is, there was a time where we had a Veda Patashala. We had our children. The children went to Veda Patashala. The parents were much more aware about why we do things and how we do things, and they knew more of the Hindu history. They were able to pass it on to the children. Now, because we don't have that, we are nuclear families today, and plus we have not been to Patashalas. We go to very Macaulay kind of education system, so we kind of have lost some of the tradition, the intellectual tradition. So I think we need to rediscover it. And that's the work of many, many people. We heard that Sharanya ji was, doing some of that. Many people in the work are they're trying to revive that intellectual tradition so that we are able to pass on to the children, not just the practices, but why and why it is beneficial for life. Okay, so that's kind of where it started. And I do want to thank Ami Ganatra and Archana Iyer Sunil, because they've given some inputs to the material that you're going to see. With that, I would request a few things. It's called a workshop. I don't want it to be like, me talking all the time. Of course, I'm going to talk all the time, but at least I'd be appreciated if you can participate with an open mind, ask any questions. And if you have any other suggestions, also please do share. I'm by no means the only expert in the room here. So if you have any suggestions or things that you've seen work, please do share it. And this material has also improved a lot since the first workshop. I've got a lot of feedback, more questions were added. Parents had several, requests. So yeah, so please keep it interactive as much as possible. You can post it in the chat, or you can unmute and just interrupt me. It's a small group, so we can just go ahead and do that. Now, why are we here, right? This is what we were talking about earlier, and I think it's very, very important for to explain to the children why we even need, why do we need this deliberate parenting? So here's some of the workshops that I did. So initially, I didn't start off with a parent workshop. Like I said, I was working with a lot of youth, especially Hindu youth. And as a Bhagavad Gita student, I was very puzzled that why are they struggling? Why are they not understanding? And then I realized that it's the parents who unwittingly, of course, every parent wants the best for their children. There's no doubt about it. But they unwittingly create a lot of confusion in the children, or they are not able to fix the confusion in their children. For example, some of the feedback that I got after my first workshops, you can see some of this here, right? There's kids saying, I did whatever my parents asked me to do. I would do the puja, I would go with them to the temple, I learned Carnatic music. But internally, I felt like a spectator. I couldn't really connect with what they were asking me to do. And then there are people who are saying my parents didn't really believe, they're blindly believing something, and they want me to blindly follow something. And then there are people who say until they were home, they were very cultured, they were in a joint family, everything is fine. But the moment she has left her home, she's a different person. She claims to be an atheist. And there are other people who are finding fault with India and Hindus in many, many forms, right? They don't understand, but they are saying Hindus are casteist and colorist and Islamophobic and all of this stuff. So the point is, there is something missing. And these are all smart children. It's not like they are, they want to know. And so they are saying, why are we not told why? Why are we not told, given clear answers to, life, the questions around Hinduism? Why are we not given clear explanations for things we do? So what is happening is there are many, many unanswered questions in their mind. Now, children don't always ask those questions outside. They have it in their mind. If the environment in the home is not one of discussion and one of conversation, they will never ask it. They will have it in their mind. They'll go out. It'll still be it'll be a vacuum. And what it causes is two things, right? One, it creates a lack of pride about being a Hindu, lack of pride or lack of awareness that, hey, this is something, some ancient tradition that I belong to, and there is something of value. And then there is no sense of pride. And because of the sense of lack of pride and the confusion, it exposes them to all kinds of ideologies, right? And we have heard that. And I, on an everyday basis, I have people reaching out to me, parents reaching out to me saying, my child is doing this, and asking this, how do I respond, right? So it is pretty sad to see that. For example, they're saying, how does the even being a Hindu matter today? It seems like a waste of a time. It's some ancient stuff, right? And there are kids who are saying this whole spiritual but not religious, and kind of spiritual, I think there is some power, and then it's enough to be good. And why do we need all of this Hindu traditions and customs, right? These questions come up in them. None of my friends, even Hindu ones, are practicing anything. So we live in a world where a lot of people are Hindus in name only, right? They are Hindus in their name, they record themselves of Hindu, but when you look at their practice, it's very minimal. At the most, they might celebrate a Diwali or a Holi or something, but there's no recognition of what do you do on a daily basis. Their families aren't doing much, probably. So that is, so we are surrounded by friends who don't really follow much. Then that's one thing. And then whatever we do know about Hinduism in the mainstream media, for example, or in textbooks, definitely in the US, but I'm sure in India also, the narrative is always negative. It's always superstition, and as though only Hindus have superstition, as though only Hindus have discrimination, as though Hindus only, are backward or treat women badly. So they have built this narrative where they have kind of said, okay, other religions are very good, but somehow Hinduism has a lot of negatives. So what happens is the children grow up feeling embarrassed to even call themselves Hindu. That is again a problem. And then same thing, questions about patriarchy and all of the sati, and like, really, did we have sati? And there are kids who asked me all of these questions in the workshops also. And then there's this overall notion about India itself now, especially with the, again, with the media and all of this, while they recognize that India is becoming advanced and, our technology power and all of that, they still feel it's backward and superstitious and Islamophobic and casteist and all of this stuff. So the children are growing up in this atmosphere. So naturally, they're going to be exposed to very, very, these ideologies, right? So when they have a vacuum in their mind, even if they're growing up in traditional Hindu families, there are still questions, unanswered questions in their mind. There are still, kind of this media is pouring in all of this narrative. It's natural that they are confused, and their mind is inviting all these toxic ideologies. So I have parents, for example, in the US, they say that my child went to college, and first year she says she is atheist. Second year, she is talking, bashing India, bashing Hinduism. And now it's like there is a very good chance that she might convert. So we have these extreme situations, but sometimes it's not that extreme, but the children are not really calling themselves a Hindu or proud to be a Hindu, leave alone practice anything, right? So this is an issue. And by the way, those of you who are interested, you can look at Chitty Media of this girl from, she talks about her whole transition from a very orthodox family in Kerala and how she converted into Islam and now she's come back. But she talks about her mental journey, why she did that. So this is what we are trying to address. We should all try to address with our children. And it's our duty, I think, just like we educate them on, whatever they need in school, we also have to educate them on this. So like I said, it invites all the toxic ideologies. Now, let's take a little minute, if you all want to either speak up or put in the chat, what do you think? Just drop a note about what your children have such thoughts, and in general, or even children that you know, and how do they in general feel about being a Hindu? Anybody wants to speak up?
Hi, Deepa. I would just like to share about my kids. I hope I'm clear.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have two kids. I'm based in India, though we have traveled around some countries, but based in India, so we don't face, and they are still young, 11 and 15, so maybe a little young. But so far, no, they don't have those negative thoughts or haven't faced it, because in India, like normally in this their circle, it's fine. But yes, we still do take care and kind of teach things which is possible from our end as a parents. And so that's about
Very good, very good. Yeah, yeah. I think it's good to have that, but I think in a way, I feel we have to preempt them, right? Like I said, are there unanswered
yes.
questions? Sometimes they don't open up. Especially 11 and 15. 11 is a little young. 15, they may or may not have talk about everything with us. It's not a topic that
I
typically children talk about. Also, right? It's not like they're talking about it. So somehow we have to create an atmosphere where they will bring it out so that
good
we can
point.
address it before they go out and have this question. That's the point.
So should we ask them questions, or should we encourage them to ask such questions so that we can clarify? I mean,
We should. I'm going to
is it
go through all of
something?
that later. I'm going to
Okay,
go through
okay,
all of
sure.
that.
I'll wait
Yes,
for that.
yes. Yeah,
I'll wait for that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Vinodji, yeah, they don't believe in God and custom and mock us. Yeah, so they're forward block and upper. Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I've heard from many parents. And I think those are some things that we will address as we go. Because by the time they are, they grow up into their late teens, if they don't have the Shraddha, then they start mocking it. Because, and frankly, the teenage years are a difficult years, right? They think, and all of us went through that, they think they know more than their parents, as they go into college, they think they know more. And then what happens is, even with this Hindu dharma, they also feel they know better than us, right? So they have this. So my thing is, whoever, definitely it's better to start early, but by the time they are in their mid teens, they should have Shraddha. They should say, okay, I don't know everything, but whatever I know, I know, I'm very confident that this is a very good value system. This is a very good, I don't want to call it religion, but for the sake of a better word, I like this religion and it has good stuff. And yes, there are some, misconceptions, and there are definitely problems that we have faced. And, and I don't mean to, and we'll talk about that in the next session. But yes, and then yes, the friends is a big problem. So I think and I, those of you who follow me on Facebook, you've seen this. I think there are two things that have changed with it's the same practices, but, like our parents or our grandparents. But the two things that have changed, one is they don't have the right set of friends, not in a bad way. The friends may be fine, but from a dharma standpoint, they don't have that. They are not surrounded by other people who also do this often. Secondly, they don't have the right role models. So, and this, yeah, hopefully they'll have some parents or some extended family, but on a daily basis, they are not seeing role models who are successful, good Hindus. Like right now, I mean, I'm not I don't want to bring in politics here, but like, for example, somebody like a Modi ji, right, who does the puja, but he's also a successful person. Somebody like, they need to see role models who are embodying what it means to be a Hindu, and that they can relate to, not Swamijis and gurus, because they are not in that mindset yet. So I think this is what we will go through. So a good feedback. So please keep that.
And
Yes, go ahead, Saranya.
yeah, see, actually, my cousins, it's not about, okay, they don't feel being great about being a Hindu, and they don't feel bad being a Hindu also. It's just, okay, I'm a Hindu. It's just that, okay. And one problem with which I noticed, okay, so I'm 37, okay, so I've interacted with a lot of my cousins, nieces, and all that. So problem is like, when the parents feel so proud of our traditions and the day-to-day rituals that we are supposed to do, the kids also kind of feel proud about those things. So the parents don't feel that, we cannot expect the kids to do that. That's precisely what is happening. So few of my cousins feel we are suppressed in the name of traditions and all that. So it's also telling them the right reasoning, behind what we do. So
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, very true. So I think and that's what we'll go through in a minute. But really, the problem is, like you say, either they are, like Vinodji says, they are actively mocking. Okay, that is a extreme situation. But that is a small number. But there are many who are not actively mocking, but they don't have anything special. What's the big deal? Religion, I don't think about it. I'm just focused on my career or whatever. I'm not going to think about it, right? So you have this agnostic group, but remember, this agnostic group is very easy to go into the other side. They can very easily fall into the other side because they have not understood anything. So, so this is why I think the combination you mentioned, we'll talk about it later, combination of parents, role modeling, parents living it, and then also discussions. I don't think we can stop having discussions anymore. Jay, you have a point?
Yes, I just wanted to second to what Saranya ji was saying. I also have a lot of my direct cousins or friends who are, say, do-gooders. They are Hindus, so to say, but they don't believe so much into, say, the rituals or the pujas and all that, right? I think they don't understand that being a do-gooder is good. Like, you can be spiritual, which is a good thing, but that's precisely where the problem of not having an ecosystem or not having role models comes into picture, because only if you're ritualistic, only if you're following certain paddhatis, you will actually have people around you who you can look forward to. At the same time, it's
Mm,
going to sustain the whole, I don't want to use that term, but the ecosystem, which will
right.
keep producing such individuals who would be mindful, be respectful, and the do good thing that you want to keep doing is going to be sustained only if you do those rituals. Otherwise, it'll just be taken over by the other side, the
Correct.
adharmic ones.
Yeah, satsang is a very important, like, so yeah, we'll get to that in a minute, but it's good to have this feedback. So I just wanted to understand the problem, and we'll go into solutions as we go, and I'd love to hear your feedback on that as well. Now, so the what you're going to see, and many of you obviously you know this, so this is not meant for you, but it's meant for you to give, and meant to give you some words that you can use with your children to explain to them what, and we'll go through it, a long series now. We'll go into why they, why they need it and what's the basis and all of that, right? Now, before that, I think the important thing, and the children also want to know, they don't want to waste time. They have other things to do. Why do we even need? And I think this is very important. Now, and I'm talking from US standpoint also, but same thing we're seeing in India, right? The problems in children and youth, this is all the why. We still have a lot of problems. There is a lot of stress and distraction and mental weaknesses. Children are succumbing to drugs and social media and opioid and all of that, and there's a lot of confusion. They don't know what to believe. They believe whatever the leftist media says. And that's not manifesting, and we have to talk to them about, hey, look at all of this, and later I'll show you how. But even when we are studying, reading the news or watching something, we can say, hey, look at this, why is this happening? Like today I was writing, yesterday I posted on Facebook that today is Father's Day apparently in the US, but 50% of the children are growing out without fathers. This divorce rates are so high. Why is that happening? Because at the end of the day, the divorce seems like, again, there are extreme situations and I'm not making a comment on them, but in general, life has not become better after the divorce for everybody concerned. So why is this, why are people not able to address? And there is no one answer, but the children have to understand that it's not just because we have a lot of technology and just because we're all living in very urban, very fancy settings, it doesn't mean life is good. People are struggling. So that is one, one thing which I like to talk about. Then same thing with the families. Like I said, the parenting is just, I'm just making an observation based on many people. It's not to single out anybody, but it's very thoughtless parenting. It's very focused on the school system and grades and getting all the accomplishments. And it's not building the person inside, the children inside. And society, obviously, we're seeing a lot of fanatic, toxic ideologies and unhealthy competition, consumerism and greed. I mean, yeah, today, like the news is saying, this whole, I'm sure you're all familiar with this Bitcoin business, right? This whole Bitcoin industry, there is no value added. Like when it started, I was thinking, I mean, it is kind of like the stock market, but at least in the stock market, there's a company behind it. They are producing some goods, they are doing some services. Whereas with Bitcoin, there is nothing. But it went through this whole craze, and now apparently all these companies are tumbling one after the other. This greed for money. However, I'm just going to invest in something which has no value and going to make short-term money. And then the role models I talk about. Now, what I want them to understand, and this is something that it's not a one conversation, right? You're going to keep having these conversations. They need to make the connections somehow through our role modeling, through our conversations, that Hindu Dharma has the potential to minimize all these ills and lead to a better life outcome. Somehow this connection has to happen, right? There is all these problems that are either happening in society, sometimes in our own lives, but potentially we could also fall into that, right? And it doesn't mean, one of the things we should be very clear of is just because somebody else's problem, we can't look around, because we could very easily be in the same situation. So from that standpoint, we need to make a connection to them that this is not some mystical otherworldly system. What children typically think is religion, and again, we're going to talk a lot about Abrahamic religions. They have painted this notion that somehow it is about some God going to heaven, going to hell, and all of that. Yes, those things are there, and we also have Punarjanma, and we believe in all of that. However, they need to see, no, this is a way of living, and we keep saying way of life, but I don't think we have figured out quite how to explain this to them, and this is how we can explain it. All these problems can be somewhat handled if you are following Hindu Dharma, right? And that's how what we are going to see in the next few. And again, a few things which I wanted to highlight, why we need a different way of parenting that maybe we did not need in the past. Because of the Pathashala system, because of the joint family, access to a lot of gurus. So we lived in the villages where there was definitely we had more interaction with our ancestors, had more interaction with like learned people, gurus, And so there was a lot of knowledge transfer that happened both formally in the Pathashalas and informally through the systems. We don't have that anymore. And that is why we need to and also the thing is, Hinduism is an intellectual system. I'm using Hinduism for the sake of the children, but I personally prefer Dharma. In any case, it is an intellectual system. It's not a plain belief-based faith. It's not like saying you believe something and you get baptized and you go to heaven. It's not like that. It is a very intellectual system, because humans it's a complex, right? Because humans are complex. We are complex. Our minds are complex. So how, and our relationships are complex. How we balance everything in society is complex. So because of that, it is a little complex to understand. And it also offers, as you all know, a diversity of margas, right? There is no one single thing, here's what you do, go to Sunday morning, go to church, you do this. It's not like that. It offers a lot of diversity, which means you have to study a little bit in order to understand what it is that you should follow. And of course, those days they made it easy by having family traditions, but that also is missing now. Thirdly, it's non-congregational, right? The other two religions, or most other religions, they go to a certain place every week. There is a certain message that's given to all of them, and so many of the questions are addressed, or the Bible school, or the Muslim children go to that whatever their Islamic school and so on. We don't have that. So which means the onus is on us to find and follow the path, to understand, to resolve our questions. And also, like I said earlier, Hinduism is not a deliberate, it's not a Sunday morning alone or Friday alone. It's a 24-hour way of living. So what does that mean? It means we can't outsource it. It has to start in the family. The family is the one that has to, there's deliberate parenting needed, very thoughtful and planned. And I'm going to talk about some planned parenting. Just like we do planning for their school, like we say, okay, you have to go to the school, you have to do this particular subject, this particular extracurricular sport, or whatever it is. If you're struggling, here is, a tutor or tuition for that. Here is the, you study from 6 to 7, you do this, and then you do this. We're very planned about other things. Similarly, we need a very planned parenting for also educating, inspiring, and empowering our children to be Hindus. So that is where, this workshop model started. So basically, I'm thinking at the end of the day, here's what our children should have. They should be proud of their Hindu heritage. They should follow Hindu values and tradition. And to understand that this will help them develop into well-balanced, mentally strong, loving, and happy adults, right? You have to make the connection there, that it is not about some future thing. It is right now you will develop into a, into a good, better person. And they should use, our children are growing up and we all want them to do well, right? We want them to do well in their school career, whatever it is, jobs. We want them to have a good marriage or whatever it is. They should use a Hindu model of success for academics and career and relationships, and not a Western or a, leftist model. And finally, these two are a little more public. They should be aware of the Hindu issues and speak up, and as much as possible defend attacks on Hindus. It's not easy because, like many of you said, they are surrounded by people who are the opposite, right? So my daughter's in college and she says, usually everybody attacks Hinduism, they attack India only. It's never the opposite, So they, for example, they talk about somebody's color and then immediately, oh yeah, India is very colorist. So it's always everybody attacks. So for them to speak up is very difficult, but I think we can empower them and slowly, get them to where they are. And we'll talk about some more tactics about that later. And hopefully the last one is very aspirational, is to become role models, leaders, and contributors for Hindu survival in the past. Even if a handful of children are doing that, I think we will be in a better shape than we are today. Okay, so with that, so the 2 sessions, I've planned. It's a lot of content. It's, probably like a 5-6 session content. I'm trying to compress it into 4 hours. Today, we look at really the Adhyatma part. Why should children practice and preserve Hindu Dharma? And then finally, we look at a whole section on what is Dharma and how does it differ from other faiths? And then how can we actually practice to benefit from Dharma? Next week, we'll talk about more of the social and the political structure, right? That we're calling it Dharma Kshetra. That's primarily looking at some of the Indian Hindu history. Again, it's a huge topic. So I'm just going to shed a little bit light on, especially the misconceptions. Definitely, how do we, these are complex questions. How do we explain the caste? They are hearing it all the time. How do we explain it to children? And how do we have to be honest with them, but at the same time, we have to help them understand. And especially about, women and all the, survival. And right now also expose them to all what is happening today, today's reality about Hindu Dharma. I don't think many children even know. I've noticed my children, I've been talking to them, but they say, no, my friends have no clue. My friends had no clue that they found the Shivalinga in the Kedarnath recently. So they are not aware of it. And so we have to start getting them exposed to the reality of Hindu Dharma today. And then we'll wrap up with some suggestions. Okay, so if you have any comments or anything, please do feel free to share it here. Just in interest of time, I'm going to keep going, but feel free to stop me. Okay. This time we are going to spend a little bit of time on, what is Hindu Dharma? Again, this is, most of you know this very well, but at the minimum, I think we need to communicate this to the children. Okay, it's at the minimum. If this is there by the time they're like 10 or 12, then yeah, we can expose them to more. We can get them books there where they can go a little more in depth. There are many like documentaries that have come up now, Prachyam, and many people, they are publishing a lot of Project Shivoham, and of course Pragyata and Indica, Sangam Talks. Many avenues are available, but at a minimum, they need to understand this, right? The fact that we have evidence that goes until 8000 BCE, we already have seen that. Astronomical proof is putting it even older. So they need to understand that we are talking about a very, very probably the only this much ancient system that is still in large level of practice, right? Yes, there are a few here and there, but primarily all of those ancient religions, Mesopotamia or, everything is pretty much gone, right? So there is no evidence of that anymore. We are the unbroken tradition. We are still doing what we were doing 8000. So there is value in that antiquity. Of course, that, we were actually, there was no name for this. We were just calling ourselves, Dharma, or we didn't even have a name. It was only the Persians who called us, Hindus based on the Sindhu River. And finally, I was shocked to learn this. There was no such thing as Hinduism. It came only in the late 18th century. Even before that, it was, we were just called Hindustanis. All of us were called. It was only the British who gave the name Hinduism very late in the 18th century. And in that process, they also split off Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism from this model. So what was one holistic, organic thing, which people following different margas and different darshanas was split off as a religion. And that has caused a huge amount of problem for us. We still prefer to call it Hindu Dharma or Sanatana Dharma, as you all know, and the eternal. Now, what does that mean, right? Okay, it's all names are all fine, but what does it mean? I think the children need to understand it is, there's not just otherworldly, right? Moksha, and, there is a level of otherworldly stuff to it, even though, even moksha for us is right now and right here. But nevertheless, it is to live life here to achieve whatever you want in life. So the children are, they're not going to renounce right now, right? They're all very much in, like, they want to accomplish and they want to enjoy all the pleasures and, all of that, movies and everything. Fine, no problem. But it helps you do that with a balance. So we know Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha, the 4 Purusharthas. They need to know at least these terms, that Hindu Dharma is a means to achieve all of them, but do it in a way where it is balanced and it's not unlimited enjoyment, right? So the point is, examples we can show. One example is driving to a place to another. Even though we might have a very fast car, we just can't just go do whatever we want. We have to go in a way where we are safe. We drive in a way that we are safe, but we're also putting other people's, and we're not affecting other people, right? That's why we have traffic rules and we try to follow them. But the point is, yes, you're giving up some freedom because you can drive at 100 miles or whatever, but you're giving up that freedom because it's safe for you and it's safe for society. So similarly, we can definitely pursue Artha, Kama, like the wealth and pleasures. We can definitely do that. But what Hindu Dharma is giving you is those guidelines so that you don't harm yourself and you don't harm people around you. So this is the whole notion of Dharma, and we'll have a next slide coming up on that. But at the same time, what we are told is that it's the basic people who just look at Artha and Kama, right? It's Swami Chinmayananda ji, he calls it the Prakrita Purusha, very like animalistic man. All they care about is my stomach should be filled. I should have my whatever pleasure I want. That's a very basic way of living. Then you become a man, Samskrita Purusha, where you follow some dharma. You say, you know what, I'll do all of that. I'm not going to renounce. I'm going to follow Artha, Kama, but I will do it in a way that elevates me. Even like if I'm following pleasure, let me follow the pleasure that doesn't demean me or diminish me or hurt me, but follow pleasures that can actually elevate me. Like, for example, I don't know, classical music or reading some good books. It is still pleasure, but it doesn't harm you. Whereas you can like drink or you can watch some nonsense, which will actually hurt you physically, psychologically, emotionally. So dharma doesn't stop us from following Artha, Kama, but actually evolves us, right? So, and same thing with Artha, we will definitely make money, but we won't be greedy and we'll share money. And, so we will, Artha is with Dharma becomes much more powerful for us and for society. And finally, moksha, it's a little difficult to talk about it. I did have a separate session online on Advaita Vedanta for children. So I'm not going to go into that too much, but the children should at least know. They will ask questions later about the purpose of life. And later we'll talk about rebirth and, our things about that. So like I said, Hindu Dharma gives license to achieve the Purusharthas in balance without trampling on the others. Now, the reason we call it Dharma, right, is that it's the actual meaning of Dharma is Dharyate Anena iti Dharmaha. It is the one that sustains everything, many, many things. So the Western model is very individualistic. Like, I need something, it's my right, I will follow it, right? Whereas with Dharma, it says, okay, you can follow, but the Dharma should be universally, it should be good. It should not affect the world. And by world, we don't mean just human beings. We mean the whole world, right? Like rivers and animals and plants and everything. So what is a model where you can optimize across everybody? So the example I use is a corporation. Within a corporation, within a large company, for example, we do things, but we don't affect others, right? Like one team does something, it's usually without harming another team. Within the family, for example, we all adjust for, even though, like, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but one child wants to watch some movie, but the other child has an exam, we tell them, no, you can't do that because then she will be distracted. So don't do it, right? So you can use small examples at home and say, so the dharma, you have to be somewhat selfless, because by being selfless only, you can also support the whole, all the creation. So this whole concept is called harmony, right? Like the children can understand the concept of harmony. So what we are saying is, without harmony, you can't really do anything. Even as an individual, we all know this. On days that we are very agitated and we are, upset about something, we can't really accomplish anything. So harmony is necessary for achieving goals of life, to, overcome weaknesses, and finally for moksha. And same thing with the harmony in the family, we need to work for harmony, because without that harmony in the family, we cannot really have a decent, and neither the parents can achieve anything, nor they can pass on values and traditions to the next generation, and in the world as well, right? And we see so much disharmony in the world. So they need to understand, the children need to understand that dharma is about managing this whole thing. It's about managing harmony as much as possible in the world. It's not always going to happen. Even within the family, it doesn't happen. But if you have dharma as your ideal, what you will do is, even when you have momentary turbulence, we'll come back and say, by the way, this is not helpful, right? And we have all seen that when we grow up, our parents doing it. They will have difference of opinion, there will be arguments, but then they will come back and say, okay, no, you know what, for the sake of the harmony of the family, we'll have to make some compromises. And that's not a bad thing. Unfortunately, today it sounds like a bad thing, but it's really putting dharma as the goal and not my individual likes and dislikes. And then this is one thing which we all also get confused on. So we use these words very intermingling. We call it religion, philosophy, culture, tradition. We use all of this in a very, kind of all of it together, right? We don't really have clarity on the terms. So again, this is something, we are called a Vaidika Dharma, right? Obviously, none of us has read the Vedas. Very few people have actually read the Vedas, a little bit, Upanishads here and there I've read, but really not much. But we use it very commonly. Why do we say India is, Hinduism in the Vedic culture? India is based on the Vedas. It's not because everybody has read the Vedas. Most people won't even have touched a book, or they won't even see have seen what is in there. However, we are still a Vedic society. Why do we say that? Because what has happened is the Vedas, the philosophy, and both the rituals, both the everything in the Vedas has somehow been translated into the culture and society. So you see that whatever mentions in the Vedas, somehow over time, our rishis, our ancestors have translated that into a culture which is manifesting as internal values. It's at a mental and a subconscious level often, and it doesn't change a lot. It has stayed like that for years, for millennia now. And then generally it's pan India, right? Across all Hindus, whether we are in, Kerala or Kashmir or Assam or whatever, we have a kind of a common Hindu commonality in the way we think about culture. And it's imbibed organically. It's not written, culture is not written down somewhere. It's imbibed organically by watching your parents, watching, society. So that is the culture part. However, this culture manifests as traditions, right? So these are traditions, these are external practices. They are not so much internal. They are external practices that you do. They could be rituals. They could be what daily things you do, your food, your clothes, your, whatever tilak or bhasma, whatever you wear. And what do traditions do? Traditions take the culture and reinforce it. So it's just a way, the external manifestation of the same culture. And often it's verbal or physical, right? Like if we say namaste, or we say Jai Shri Ram, or whatever it is, that is, verbal, and physical is all the rituals that we do, the practices with how we celebrate, how we eat, and all of that. And they all change with time and place. Our culture, like we all know this, our clothes have changed a lot since, the Gupta period, for example. Food has gone through some changes, even the puja vidhi and all, it's gone through some changes as time passed. There are a lot of regional and jati variation, definitely. So whereas in culture, we saw it's pan-India across Hindus, and now even I would say argue that outside of India, but the actual traditions do vary. So if you look at how do we celebrate Navratri in Bengal versus Gujarat versus Tamil Nadu, it's very different. And but traditions are often taught explicitly, right? Like, somebody in the family will tell you, this is how we do it. We have to keep this, we have to do this, we have to do this prasad. So the children have to be very clear about these terms, And you can give them some examples, and I kind of listed some examples here. So the Vedas, for example, are talking about the Guru Shishya Parampara, how knowledge flows and all of this. That is manifested into a culture, like, for example, respect for elders and knowledgeable people. And, also seeing all creation as one. And then importance of mind. Mind is, Vedas talk, Upanishads talk a lot about it, how the mind is the one who it can help you. The mind is the one who can hurt you. So mind control is important. And then Vedas also, every Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam, every act is centered on God. Everything is God, and there's only God. So what does that? Those are all cultural things that we have imbibed internally. Even the most uneducated person, like a villager or anybody, they will all agree, right? If you ask them in the whatever examples, they will all agree. Yes, I respect the elders in the family, older people I respect. They will all have some, they won't use the words, but they will all agree that, yes, I see everything as Bhagavan. They will, in fact, in rural India and all, you'll see even for a tree, they would have put chandan and, they would pray, or, for cows, obviously, animals, we do that, tulsi. So they would do all of this, but they won't be able to verbalize it. They won't be able to explain it. So, but all of these traditions they can explain. So that is translated, for example, into saying namaskaram or bowing down to an elder. They were generally, even, cow, animals, plants, they will worship. But even if they are most people are vegetarian, but even if they are not, their ideal is to be a vegetarian. In fact, I remember very vividly when I was in my childhood, my opposite house, they used to eat meat. But when I used to go there, they will say once a week or something, they'll eat meat and they'll wash the kitchen after that and all that. And that uncle used to say, yes, we do eat, but my ideal is to one day drop it. So he has explicitly said, I hope to drop it very soon. I'm trying to minimize and all that. So even if they eat, their ideal is to minimize harm to society, right? So they had this ideal, and same thing with, a lot of japa, dhyana, everything. So my point is, let's understand the words that we are using very clearly. What is dharma, what is philosophy, what is culture, what is tradition, and use it specifically. The children need to be just like they are learning science or math. They need to have that crystal clarity. Culture is internal. It has to be developed by role modeling. Over time, it develops by being in this atmosphere. Traditions are things that are external, that are, and then that's how you can explain that, to some extent, the culture is very important. We need to maintain that culture, but the tradition helps us reinforce that culture. So when they ask, why do we have to do this? Why do I have to do evening puja? Or why do I have to, do namaskaram to my, grandparent, or whatever it is? These are ways to explain that, yes, you may think it is just a ritual, or you may think it's just a body thing, and why should I do it? Even adults have a problem, by the way. Even adult, Hindus, I'm part of some Dharma moms group, and they all like, why are we doing that? Why is that cloth important? Why can't I do whatever I want? No, it's important because it is through traditions, it is through a daily following of a certain practice that the culture gets reinforced. So, for example, if you treat going to the temple as a very important thing, then you have to follow some traditions. You have to bathe, wear some nice, appropriate clothes for it, put tilak and all of that. Then you go to the temple. Now you can argue, why should I not do it? Why can't I just go with whatever clothes I'm wearing? I said, what happens is, when you do all of that traditions and go to the temple, that bhakti or that devotion to God will get enforced. If you don't do that, it'll be like, okay, whatever. So there is a circular effect there. The culture manifests in traditions, and the tradition reinforces the culture. If they don't understand that, they will always keep questioning the tradition. So this is just my take on how to explain that, and we'll have more examples later. And this is the last slide, and I'd love for some time to discuss with you. There are a lot of values that we talk about, right, in Hinduism especially, and there are a lot of them. Bhagavad Gita, for example, there are multiple places Bhagavan Krishna gives values, right, in 12th chapter, and like in 11th chapter, and 18th chapter, like values all over the place. But there are a few that I highlighted here. And many of these you see, like moderation, right? Now, like yuktahara viharasya, Krishna says, everything has to be done in moderation. So that, like we talked about earlier, I can drive a fast car, but I'll hurt myself and hurt those around me. but I will drive safely, right? Similarly, moderation is kind of similar to driving safely. Yes, do enjoy the world, but do it in moderation so that you're not, harming yourself. But, look at so many people, people are starving, but they want to have billions and billions of dollars in the bank. They want to buy house after house after house. Actually, it's harmful for them and it's harmful for other people, right? So many examples you can give. How many clothes do you want? How many shoes do you want? Those are discussions we can have. Duty, Hindu dharma is all about doing your duty. Krishna, the entire Gita is about doing your duty, period, right? Everywhere, niyatasya kuru karmani, Bhagavan Krishna keeps saying, you do your duty. Don't complain about whether the duty is pleasant or unpleasant. Don't complain whether somebody praises you or insults you when you're doing that duty. Don't get dejected if something, you do your duty and something doesn't turn out the way you want to. So what the entire Gita says is, it is by doing your duty selflessly, irrespective of the results, that you build yourself. You build yourself into a strong person, and you're able to not just achieve your goals, but you also are productive to society. So this, and by the way, we see all our parents, grandparents, they did that, right? It's not like they like to do it, but they just, okay, this is my duty, I do it. And these days the children don't get it. So I explain to them, I tell them, and I don't brag about myself, but I tell them, see, we are all doing our duty to you. And I use their dad as it's like, your father, see, he's so tired, but you wanted something, he's still doing it, he's doing his duty to you. So helping them understand that, hey, yes, this is the way, this is why my parents are doing it. What happens in teenagers, they take you for granted. They take parents for granted. Oh, parents, they are supposed to do that. So I think at least one of the spouse, both if mother and father, one of us used to, this is what I do, because I don't want to brag about myself. See, I am doing it for you. It doesn't look nice. So I use their father and I say, see, this is what he does. He's doing that, he's so tired, and whatever he is doing. And in fact, many times has happened. Like he was in a job which he didn't like, but he was still going, because I told the children, he's doing it because he has to, we need the money for your sake. So we can make those connection about this. So important to drill down the requirement to be doing the duty to them. Then we see the world as one family, right? As much as, yes, we have families, for us, we really truly believe that everybody needs a chance to live their life to the best, and we won't harm them. Even if we can't help them, we won't harm them. Ours is very knowledge based. We have to pursue knowledge all the time, every knowledge. So, encourage them to have a curiosity for knowledge for the world, anything, science or history or anything, cultivate the need for knowledge. We have Saraswati who embodies that for us. Truth, very important. And especially today, the Satyam is being so fungible, because media is making out whatever media, textbooks, they do whatever they want and everything. So having this quest for truth is also very, very important. So encourage them, even small lies. And I have a young child now. I tell her, what you said is a very small lie. It's not a big deal. Like she says something like, I finished my math or whatever it is. I said, you know what, it may be a small lie to you, but these are the things that will diminish you. You have to, your inner strength will come when you follow truth. Don't face it. If you have not done it, say the truth and face the consequences. It actually build you into a better person. So that is something we can do. Ahimsa, we already, we all know this. I think there is a place for it. Gita is full of that. But my point is, but ahimsa, remember, it's not just a physical ahimsa, right? Now, today we do so much, emotional ahimsa these days. Social media, the children are mocking each other and they are teasing each other and all of that. They're showing off their things. So, like I have a new dress today, and they show off. And actually, I tell my daughter, you don't think about it as himsa, it's actually himsa, because there's somebody looking at it and they're hurt because they don't have that, or they're jealous. And it causes, and they feel like, oh, my parents are not buying it for me. So be very, very thoughtful about ahimsa. It's not just at a physical level. It's, are you really, even hurting at an emotional level is something. But all of this is good. You all know this, and we have a lot more we can talk about. But what makes it difficult is, it is often at odds with what their friends are doing, right? It's not something that their friends are talking about or even understanding. So that is why it's very important to not just talk about these here, but actually role model and explicitly share with them what this means. With that, I think we come to the end of this session. Any questions, thoughts, feedback from anybody?
I have a question. In one of your slides, I noticed that you had mentioned Hindu model of success. I mean, what is that exactly?
So this is basically, they have this notion today is what they think is it is only the Western model, which means you'll be successful in life. So they think you have to be aggressive and you have to ignore, family, this all feminism, for example, this over greed. So they have this notion that these are things, and then being traditional or being, devotional, following your traditions, these are all opposed to being success. There is this kind of a perception that has been built, right? Because all the modern people you see, all like the role models that they follow, especially whether they're in sports or movies or all of these people, they are not embodying that Hindu spirit, right? They are not being the practicing Hindus. So what happens is the successful people they see in their lives are not those, kind of true practicing Hindus, right? So they have this unconscious notion that somehow Hinduism is opposed to success in the world. So that is what I think we have to say, that no, you can actually be a very good Hindu, because and that's what we're going to see soon, is Hinduism dharma gives you all the tools for managing your mind, for developing your intellect, for being stronger, and then you're being very good with people around you, and then that actually becomes a way to reach success, right? Whether in your career or whatever it is. So that is what I'm calling. And by the way, I have a separate session for the children. I did one time, but I need to redo it. So I'm calling it the Artha, like this workshop is called Life the Hindu Way. Similarly, for children, I have these sessions called Artha the Hindu Way and Kama the Hindu Way, which is you can still, they're going to pursue a great success. They want money, everything, fine. And then they want all the relationships and whatever, thing. How can you do it in a Hindu way where you're actually empowering yourself to make a success of it, but you're also helping those around you to do it, right? Whether it's your life partner or whatever. So there is a Hindu model of success, is what I mean, is living by the Gita and still achieving those success. It's a big topic, but I think we'll see some of it as we go.
Okay, thank you. And one more thing, so just now, as you said about the Hindu model of success, see, one question is like, okay, I don't follow any of this. Okay, I'm just a Hindu. I pray God. It's not like I'm very devotional and all that.
Mhm.
I pray God. Okay, and but I don't follow any of the traditions and all that. But I'm still successful. I mean, why do I need to do that when I'm still successful?
Yeah, I think we saw that earlier, right? So and again with children, it's very hard to we don't want to paint a very bad situation, but one thing I say is, just because everything is nice today, right? Everything is how you're happy today, right? Everything, you have good money, your health is fine, you have some loving family, all is good. But life is very unpredictable. You're going to have a long life and you never know what's going to happen to you. You need to, so this is purely from a life standpoint, right? So you need to empower yourself. You have a very rare human birth. It's in fact, we are told that it's so rare, it after like millions of, lakhs of birth, you get a human birth. But don't you want to empower yourself to maximize that life, right? Whether it is in achieving in outside or achieving inside, having relationships, everything, you want to have the maximum. Why would you not prepare for it? You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. People face, I mean, the world is, there is a notion, at least in the last few years, we have been very stable, right? Like, oh yeah, here and there are some wars. It doesn't affect us. We are all very happy. We have reasonable amount of money, all kinds of luxuries, no problem. But that's not true. The world changes a lot. All of a sudden there might be something that happens in society. COVID happened, for example. And by the way, I don't know if you know, but so many mental problems have come because of the pandemic, right? Like, the remote schooling has caused so much damage. People need structure. And I know I was very unpopular when I said it earlier. Not that I am diminishing the, dangers of COVID. I mean, I understand, it's very dangerous and all of that. But even the remote school and all, it comes at a cost. So we need to, whatever decision you make, right? We have to understand that it comes, like, for example, we don't swallow any medicine. We look at the side effect of the medicine, right? We say, you know, okay, do I need to take this medicine? What are the side effects? Similarly, we did an intervention. We said, okay, to face COVID, let's shut down everything. But nobody was looking at the side effects. The side effect clearly is children, especially, and many adults too, frankly, they need structure, they need human interaction. Some people need to be with other people in order to get even motivated. You know, some people are like that. It doesn't work like that. So my point is, things change a lot. You know, and then family situations may change, job losses may happen, financial, you know, things may happen. Why are so many, even from India, right? The divorce rates are going up. Why is that happening? Why are we not able to love unconditionally? You know, why are we, so many things are happening. It's not like, you know, just because their life is fine. So I think the way to talk to them is be prepared for problems. That is one thing. Problems will come to everybody. Be prepared so that you can overcome that problem. That's number one. Second is, even if there are problems or no problems, why cannot you can maximize life? You can maximize external accomplishments. That's one thing. But secondly, this rare human birth, you can really elevate yourself, right? You can become a much better person, stronger, happier person. And then this rebirth thing, we have to, and I'm going to have a slide on that. We talk about rebirth and position yourself better for a rebirth. They have to have Shraddha in the rebirth. We have to cultivate it, and later we'll talk about it. But they need to understand that they are a jiva that will have a rebirth. So the better you internally improve yourself, you're going to have a better next janma and all of that, right? Now that Shraddha needs to happen before you have that conversation, which is why for this session, I'm saying, I'm not even going too much into that. I'm just saying, how does Hindu Dharma help you live this life much better? How do you become a much better person? Until the day you die, how can you have an excellent life? I think if we can convince them that Hindu Dharma helps them to do that, that's number one success. If we are also able to convince them that, by the way, not just this janma, we are actually in a continuing journey, and this will actually help you not just in this dharma, but beyond that, that's even a bigger bonus. You know, that will be a great win. Does that help? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So, okay. So now what I'm going to do, in interest of time, what I have done is, rather than, you know, there's so many things to talk about Hindu Dharma, instead, I'm just going to, what I said is, our notion these days is so much about what mostly Abrahamic driven concept of God, Abrahamic driven concept of everything. You know, everything is compared to them. So I'm just going to say, how do we compare the dharma with other religions, especially those two religions, and make the case why we should be proud of being a Hindu, right? And this is, again, not meant to put down them. I'm not a scholar in Islam or Christianity or anything, and I don't even want to do that. What we can talk about is the external manifestation. We know what they have done, the commonly known thing, and we can use that to make a difference between Hindu Dharma and other religions, okay? So there are 10 slides I have, which I'll go through very quickly because I want to spend more time on the why part. So 10 things, right? Now, you all know this, but I would like all of the children to know this, you know, like we all know this, but are we explaining it enough to the children? So I'll send this to you, and I think you can also have these conversations at home. But basically, we allowed for very open exploration. There were no such, you know, division between atheism and others. Everything, you know, many gurus came, they had their own versions of the darshana, they came up with their own philosophies, right? And many books were written, even with respect to the philosophies, which are called darshanas, but also with respect to all the rituals. We have many Grihya Sutras, and, you know, many kind of shastras around that, multiple dharma shastras, different ways of living life, and of course the Itihasa Purana. So they need to know that we had a very rich tradition of open exploration, and there was no history of any kind of violence or canceling. Like whether it was the Buddha or Mahavira, or even within the schools, right? Like, you know, Adi Shankara or Ramanujacharya or Madhva, no kind of fight. They debated, then went their own ways, right? If you wanted to follow this, fine. If you wanted to follow that, fine. As far as we can tell, there is no question of any violence or temple destruction or anything like that. Whereas you have a huge history. Oops, sorry. What happened to this? Okay, we have a huge history of the all kinds of book burning and all of this stuff happening within the both of them actually. So I don't know if you know this, but once the Bible was only written in Latin, and then when the Bible was translated for the first time into other languages, they were all burnt. They would not allow for translation. It was only when this when Martin Luther King came that translations were made available, and so many books that interpreted the Bible or the Quran were all burnt. And the same with the Quran, extreme violence, right? And by the way, we all know this. Even when there were new philosophies, the story of the US, right? It was the Puritans who came first from they came to escape the persecution in England and Germany. They came to the US. Quakers also, they fled Europe. The Mormons, they were born in the Pennsylvania area, and they were they banished everywhere they were fought, and they had to keep moving until they went to Utah. Similarly with Islam, the day after the Prophet died, the war has started between the Sunnis and Shias, because who's better, this is my take, this is my take, right? Whereas within Hindu Dharma, so many philosophies have sprung up. Till date, this, the Sunnis and Shias are fighting all over the world. In fact, we have Ahmadiyas and Pashmandas, and all of them, they fight amongst each other because they're different, they violently fight against each other. Whereas in our case, there's no evidence of that. That shows that we have been pretty open to exploration. Secondly, there is no label as sinners and pagans or kafirs, right? Like, if somebody doesn't follow, okay, it's your problem, it's your life, you do whatever. Whereas for us, every human is considered divine. And that's why when Swami Vivekananda came to the US, and he's called Amritasya Putraha, right? He called brothers and sisters, he said, children of immortal bliss. He says the Hindu refuses to call you sinners. Whereas in their case, they call them sinners every day. And right from childhood, they are said, oh, you're a sinner, you're a sinner, you're a sinner. But whereas we are told that we are the divine Atma. Just imagine, right? Just one time, have the children think about it. We are immortal, and we are divine. We refuse. Yes, we fall, we forget that, and we make mistakes. So it's a very different way of looking at the world. Our way of looking at the world is we are divine, we are pure, we are full of bliss. But sometimes we forget that and we make mistakes. So all we have to is to remember and come back. Whereas in their case, they are told that we are sinners, you're sinners. Only if you believe in certain things, you will become pure and you will reach paradise, right? It's a very different way of looking at it. So what happens is, because of that mentality of sinners, they are both the church and the mosque. They are able to create a sense of fear in their people. They say God fearing. You have to create a sense of fear, that shame and fear in those people. Whereas for us, it's not like that. It's like reclaim your divine nature. So this is something also we need to, we can have these discussions with the children, which is why this rebirth, right? This is very important, and we don't really talk about it at home. Earlier, I think it was a little more stronger. I think now I don't know if our children are very convinced about it, but I think it's worthwhile having these conversations multiple times. All of these I'm talking about is not like one time you do it and you're done, right? As they grow, you find ways to keep bringing it up and talk about it. So as you know, Bhagavan Krishna says in the Gita that just as we cast off our old clothes and put on new ones, the Atma also the Jiva also cast off his bodies and enter other bodies, right? Now, a rebirth is neither a reward or a punishment. So the Western model is, you sow as you reap. It's not a punishment. It's for us, it is a school to overcome some deficiencies. Just like an example I use with my children is, let's say you're struggling with something, like, I don't know, struggling with algebra or something. I'll put you to an algebra special class and you will learn how to do algebra, right? Or if you have one joke, I have my son tended to hunch a lot. He would he's very tall, so he'll hunch. And then I would keep, poking him in the back and be straight, be straight. Similar to that, sometimes we have some weaknesses and we need to go through some experience in order to overcome those weaknesses. So the point of rebirth is not that you're punished into being something. It is to overcome some weakness in you, that you have in your inner mind, we call it vasanas, right? The vasanas go from birth to birth. It is to overcome those vasanas that you're put into a certain birth. So what we are told is just accept, don't complain about your situation in life. I'm born in a poor family, I'm born in that family, I'm born in this country, I'm born as a girl or a boy or whatever it is. Don't complain, because for in this janma, this is the way for you to overcome something in you. So accept that situation and overcome, and find satisfaction in this life rather than complaining about the situation, right? So this is also something. And but what I'd like to talk to the children is, why should you believe in this now? Maybe very young, they may not understand, but let's say in their early teens, we can talk to them. You say they believe that there is only the Islamics, and they believe there's only one life. You are born out of some fluke, you're born in some situation in that life. You may be rich or poor, or girl or boy, or healthy, or handicapped, or whatever it is. Randomly you're given this thing, and then you have one life. And then you, at the end of the life, depending on what you did or whether you believed or not, you go to hell or heaven, right? That's what they believe. And the Christians believe that when Jesus comes again, the body will glow, the golden body will follow Jesus into paradise or something like that. Now they are willing, that is some story, right? It's unbelievable that this body, this corpse which is rotted in like a week, it's somehow going to get up and follow Jesus, right? You are willing to believe that. And the same thing with the Muslims. It's, they believe that the goats are cut because the goats will carry them through the bridge or whatever, I'm forgetting, Pule Sirat or something. The goat will carry these people across. So all kinds of I'm not mocking them, but the point is, all kinds of stories are told for them, which somehow they feel it's okay. But in our case, it's very logical. Okay, we also have no proof that some rebirth happened. Of course, there are once in a while, there are some stories that come out, but there is no proof, no doubt. However, logically, when you think about it, it's the only explanation why people are born in different situations, right? What else can you say? Did this if you use the Christian or the Muslim model, so randomly God decided to punish somebody by putting them in a poor family or making them severely handicapped? You see some people, like, why would some God do that? Some creator do that, right? So the answer has to be either the creator is very unfair and wants to punish some people from random reason, or I mean, there's just no logically thought out way of explaining why some people have it good and some people have it very, very bad in life. Or and how do you explain insects and animals and all of that, right? So the only logical reason can be your past karma. So your because of your past karma, if you understand, like the clothes example, if if I have accumulated some money in the bank, I can go and buy a nice like high brand clothes or whatever it is. If I'm very poor, I don't have anything, I'm going to wear some rags, right? Similarly, this is something, and again, this is not meant to be a punishment, but we have to convince to the children, this is a very logical answer, that we have karmas from the past, which based on that karma theory, we take a birth to exhaust some of those weaknesses that we have, like the deficiencies in our mind, the vasanas that we have. It's a way for us to overcome. And if we overcome everything, we attain moksha, is what we say. Or in this janma itself, we say I disassociate with the body and I understand I'm divine. That's also a way to moksha. But frankly, the takeaway from this slide for me is, let's the children understand that it's not so strange. The rebirth, oh, you believe in rebirth? What is so strange about it? It is the logical reason for explaining why certain things happen, why we are born a certain way. Whereas the other model is completely illogical. So please have these conversations early on so they understand and they're proud of it. And recently, I also earlier, when I came to this country, I'm in the US, when I came, I would be very shy about it. But the last decade, I'm like, what? You guys have such weird theories. My theory is much more logical. I'm going to say it. And, if the belief in that is very important for us. So I would suggest you, do that. We have many paths. The fourth is many paths to the divine, because we have different personalities, right? Everybody, like this, the problem with, like, for example, in Christianity, they're losing people a lot, right? These days, nobody wants to go to the church. India it's a different situation, but in Europe and all, churches are completely empty. In the US, they are selling off churches, and most of them are being sold to either temples or mosques, frankly. Now, the reason is they are expected to do the same thing. Everybody has to go and sit in the sermon for 1 hour a day. 1 hour on Sunday. It's not possible for many people. So we have a very flexible mode where, pick things, paths that work for you, whether it's karma yoga, raja yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. Karma yoga by doing selfless activity, doing your duty without likes and dislikes, accepting what comes, then you purify your mind. Raja yoga, focus the mind, do some yoga, dhyana, that kind of stuff. You focus the mind. Bhakti yoga, you learn to develop love for Bhagwan, then the same, the capacity to love you can show to other people also. So that is Bhakti yoga. And finally, the Jnana yoga, which is much more of a study of the Upanishads and everything and attain bliss, right? So now everybody is not cut out for all of this. I mean, most people don't follow just one. We all follow multiple things, but typically we will have a predominant thing that we prefer. So from that standpoint, Hindu Dharma offers such a wide, wide range of things that you can do. The fifth thing you can talk about the children is it's not just one male god in far off heaven. That itself is very illogical, right? You can start there, frankly. It's so illogical that, this God who is infinite power, this is, in fact, the definition from a Vedanta standpoint, God is a sum total of all of us. So every power, every form, every guna is within God, right? That's the definition of Ishvara itself, is the Virat, it's a combination of everything. So from that standpoint, how can that impossibly, omnipotent, omnipowerful Ishvara only be in one form? It's just doesn't make sense. So our children can also understand that Ishvara is so powerful that Ishvara can manifest in any form. Man, woman, child, animal, hybrid. That's why we see all the hybrid forms, right? Narasimha Bhagwan or, Ganesha or whatever. So we can do that. Now the children will ask, and I have some questions later, they will ask, well, what is there? Do they really true? Yes, we can say yes. We have to be very confident. If you're in a meditative state of mind, you will see that. Our rishis have seen those forms, right? It's not like they're making something up. And not just one rishi, many rishis have seen. So it's something that, we have to, and by ourselves doing it also, we will get the same thing. Are they physical gods who wander like that? I don't know, but the point is everything is in the mind. Everything is in our mind, and our rishi saw them in the mind. We can also see them in the mind. So, and there's complete freedom to worship any form based on our personalities and needs. Usually we start out with our family deity, Kula Devata and all of that, but people form their own Ishta Devata later, whatever they feel connected to. However, no Hindu disrespects any other form, right? No Hindu says another form is wrong. If somebody says, like, I have friends who are like, okay, I worship this form. I've never even heard of that particular deity before. I say, wonderful, like even somebody like, recently all this Grama Devatas, I've not heard of them, but we will never mock anybody, right? Because for us, it's the same infinite. And by the way, this is not just true of us. Even the most uneducated Indian Hindu will accept this. They will never mock. They will, even if you take them to some new deity, they won't know the name, they'll bow down. Because for them, unconsciously they know that's the same Ishvara manifesting in that particular Vigraha also. So it's this is something, again, very important to explain to children. And combat the notion that we are polytheists, right? There's no reason to shy away from being a polytheist, because we see that infinite in everything. No concept of blasphemy or heresy. We have always had multiple gurus who have different, venerated. We today also, right? We bow down to Buddha, Jain, everybody. We have no problems with any of them. Whereas violence has marked them completely, right? When, like I said, the Puritans came to the US, huge fights between Shia Sunnis. And, we keep blaming Hitler. Hitler is blamed for, of course, the Holocaust, horrible Holocaust, no doubt. But Hitler did not start anti-Semitism. So anti-Semitism, hatred for Jews has lasted ever since Christianity was born. It was always there. In fact, much long before Hitler, they would create these stories about, what they would do is the Jews would be in a certain location in a city, and they would, they would basically, somebody's okay. So they would basically say, they will create a story about there'll be some disease in the village, right? They will say it's only because of the Jews that this disease happened, and they'll go and slaughter the Jews. It's nothing new. Hitler just took it to a very high level. That's it. So it's always there. Whereas, that's no such thing happens in India. And you all know this, the children need to know this. I mean, many of these things, like I said, it's not for you, it's to pass on to the children, that we are the country that gave refuge and full freedom to Jews and Zoroastrians and Syrian Christians, Ahmadiyya, Bohra. No, nobody, these Ahmadiyyas, Bohras don't have equal status in Pakistan, right? But for us, it doesn't matter. We are not opposed to science. In fact, we seamlessly assimilated science. For us, there's no distinction between the spirit, the sacred and the secular. So we don't have separate science and separate spirituality. It's all together for us. So no scientist has ever been killed in India. They were revered. Whereas you've heard about, Copernicus and Bruno, and Galileo was jailed. So many things, right? And now we are discovering so many of the Western, European math and science have actually come from India, right? Please do watch many videos on Sangam and all of that on this. There are some books that are coming out as well. So you all know about this. India had the best universities, but the children need to know not just about that. There's a recent book by Sahana Singh, very interesting book on the universities, but also so many scientists, which even in India, they don't mention in the books, right? Like a little bit of mention of Aryabhatta and Bhaskaracharya, but so many others, the Charaka Shushruta as well, Varahmira, and so many others, which children don't know about. This I already mentioned. So we are not just focused on afterlife. So for them, the problem with both Christianity and Islam is they keep talking about afterlife. What happens after you die? You will go to Jannat, or you'll go to Jahannam, or you'll go to paradise. For us, yes, that's there. We also have temporary narakas and temporary swargas. We are not so focused on it. We are focused on Punarjanma, no doubt. But for us, it's also about right now, living this life, artha, kama, dharma, for this life also. We are not about suppression of desires. What has happened with them is they are so suppression of desires. Don't do that, don't do this, don't do this. For us, it's more around sublimation. Don't drink. For them, they are saying don't drink at all. For us, it's saying don't drink, because it'll actually it's not a don't drink as a mandate, but it's more around, hey, it's going to cause a lot of problems to your mind, and so it's a different way of looking at it. So that's one thing. And then finally, we know this, we are not only human centric, but and especially today, the children are very focused on animal rights and all of that, right? They want to know about, like, how do I protect the earth? So we are the most non-exploitative faith system in the world today. We don't want progress at the expense of others. We believe in responsible living, minimalism, and renunciation is given respect in us. And we are anthropocentric. We even inanimate mountains and rivers, we value them. So we are the most, as far as we can tell. Of course, we have, because of the last 1,000 years of invasion and all of that, yes, we have developed some bad practices, but fundamentally, we are the only religion that's like that. And then we are not into proselytizing and evangelizing. We are not going and converting anybody, but we accept everybody's choice. But without doing that, now there's a lot of Hindus who are lot of non-Hindus who are coming into the Hindu fold. And then funny things, they're asking, how do I convert into Hindu? We don't even have a conversion ritual, right? So it's very interesting that we are starting to see more and more people coming into it purely because they see the logic. They see it as being the most logical explanation for life, most logical explanation for afterlife, most logical explanation for why we are born a certain way. So important to show the children all of these. So that is a summary of the last section. Any questions? Any feedback? No?
I think it's a very very good compilation of all these points. I kind of feel I should maybe make posts and share it with my friends who are non-Hindus to make them aware of why Hinduism is actually obviously we don't want to convert them or anything, but at least they see us with respect.
That's all we want. Yeah, we don't really. In fact, none of our gurus have tried to convert or anything, right? They usually say give them answers. But yeah, that's a good point, Jay. I think we need to, any way to spread this out is a good idea. I mean, of course, it's meant for the parents, but I think we need to be much more vocal outside as well. Okay, so now we are going into a little more. Anybody had something? I'm sorry, did I cut somebody?
Yeah, yes. See, a very nice presentation. Thank you for this. Do you have any continuous sessions like that? I know you have one more the following week, but apart from that, so that we are in touch with this. It what happens is sometimes see there are a lot of lot of sessions or like this. What happens is we attended one or two sessions and somehow we lost. It's not a continuous process as such. I hope you get me. uh, yeah. So if there is a continuous process, continuous sessions wherein we also, kind of participate, and it becomes more of a activity or workshop. I don't know if you're getting me right. So that would really help.
Good point,
Better.
Saranya.
Yeah.
So for now, I need to make some time for it. But for now, the WhatsApp group is fairly interactive. So
Mm.
all the participants, and it's up to you, it's optional. But what has
Mm.
happened? I think there are like 100 and some people in that WhatsApp group now. And what
Mm.
they do is they usually ask some questions. Hey, what does this mean? My child is asking. Sometimes it's big questions. Like what is this? You mentioned something called Panchamaha. What is Panchamaha? Sometimes it'll be very small, like my child is asking, why are we covering God during Abhishekam, or something like some small thing, right? I don't have answers to all of them, but we'll try, or we'll find somebody who knows. So that WhatsApp group is fairly active. Not to like, and I'm very strict about not posting anything unrelated to this parenting. Okay, so so I would
Okay.
suggest you join. But if there are any avenues, I think Indic Academy has been asking for some kind of a course, or we can have like just an interactive Q&A kind of session every 2 months, every month or something. We can organize something. But I'd love to hear from you. Any suggestions you have, I can do it. Yeah, I think it's good for all the committed parents, committed adults to talk and be engaged in this, definitely.
Okay.
Okay.
And I would also like to know, about various sources through which I can enrich my knowledge on this. I heard you mention about Sangam, Indica. I know
Mm.
Sangam. I'm hearing it for the first time, so that will also help. I might be able to go and watch their articles or videos.
Yeah, I've been accumulating. I'll send you a separate document with those sources. I have a Google
Huh.
document in which I'm compiling, like, some things. I've not been very regular in it, but I'll definitely do that. And maybe some of you can add what sources you have also.
Okay, yeah. Thank
Sounds good.
you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So anyway, the point of what we did was to show Hindu Dharma in comparison with other religions, not to put down other religions, but to show that we have something special. Let's acknowledge it, so that's the purpose. Okay, so let's go into the next part, right? This is more actionable, right? Like how are we going to live as a Hindu in the family and show the children what they can do as well. So the few things which, and I know there are a lot of things, right? And I'm just talking from a children's standpoint. Few things which we can make sure that they understand from their daily life. What goals, like Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is a high level goal for whole life, right? But on a day-to-day basis, what can they aim for on a daily basis? So here are things that I thought about and I've listed. Roughly, I think these are okay. The first one is to having a balanced approach to life. Now, right now, the world is very, very focused on Artha and Kama, right? Especially as they are children, they are very focused on Kama only. They want to, of course, later or all this, boyfriend, girlfriend and all of that. But right now, all entertainment and video games and social media and all of that, which is all fine. But the purpose of Hindu Dharma is to make sure you have a balanced approach to life. Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha, and I'm more and more leaning towards Dharma and Moksha as they get older. Initially, of course, they'll be focused on, mostly Kama, but a little bit later on Artha, which is all important, right? For us, Mama, Lakshmi, Ma Saraswati, everybody is important, but have a balanced approach. Secondly, mind management, right? For any kind of happiness, and this is something I feel as young children, this is probably most important. This mind is the mano eva manushyanam, right? Like we have heard that what your mind is, that is the person you are, not your body, nothing. Whatever our mind is, that reflects our state of mind. Our mind is calm and peaceful and enthusiastic, we do well. Our mind is upset, agitated, jealous, we don't do well. It's very simple. Even in small things you can tell. Even like I tell my children today, I can predict if I'm disturbed, like I had something happen at work and then I start cooking, I tell my children, this is not going to turn out good. So let me go take a break. I'll go for a walk or something and come back, because it will reflect in everything we do. It's very subtle to notice. It's unless you're paying attention to it, you won't even know how your mind is. So meditation, Japan, pranayama will help you. The continuous distractions of today, I think this is a way to talk about the children, is too much distraction, too much phones and, media and Netflix and all of this, too much. What happens is your mind is no longer aware of itself. It's operating the more you're aware of your mind, the more you'll be successful. But your mind is always operating, it's always distracted with other things, you will never know. So self-awareness is a major factor of success. Even in the West, they are talking about it now. The people who are self-aware, who know their weaknesses, who know what their mind is, they can be much more successful. The children can't do too much, but I have told my children, Japan, pranayama every day are mandatory, and meditation, at least you sit, okay, whatever happens, you sit and try. So I have a college going daughter who is doing it every day, and she says it's a huge help. Morning pranayama and japa she starts, and then night before she going to bed, she also does a meditation, some form of meditation. So it's going to help them a lot. In the middle of all that noise, in the middle of all that stress, they find a little peace and a little calm, and bring their mind back to themselves, be aware. I think it's huge help, especially as they go out of the world, into college, where there is chaos all around, all kinds of bad influences. It's going to really help them. And same thing in your, for example, when you're in relationships, I tell them so many people are breaking up now. Like, why? Bring your mind back, understand this, have clarity, then you can handle the situation better. Thirdly is this duty as dharma. We talked about it earlier, swadharma, right? Swadharma nidhanam shaya. Krishna talks about, and Gita is full of this duty only. So the children performance of duties without complaint, that itself is yoga, right? Like as Krishna says, just without complaining, do your duty. That itself is a great form of yoga. And don't complain, don't be often willing to do more, develop the capacity to do more, rather than saying why is, so now we are saying the wife should do 50%, husband should do 50%. No, both of them should be willing to do more. And that is the way for our own growth. It's actually a very selfish motive, by doing that I grow. So that itself is, foundation for the whole family. And then all of us, it makes, the whole point of duty is, yes, to do other things, but it'll make us strong. So this is something that children have to develop. This notion of bhakti for Bhagavan, and somebody had mentioned earlier also, they don't feel like I can't develop bhakti and all, some Krishna or Ganesha, I don't develop bhakti. Now I think what has happened is we are losing the capacity to love itself. We say love and all, we have watched movies about love, but truly, is that truly love, right? True love is giving, it's about giving selflessly, unconditionally. Even if that person is not nice to me, I will love that person. Even if that person is not giving me anything, I love that person. That is the notion of love, right? Now we have lost that capacity a lot, within the marriages, even parent and children. So that is the cause of so many issues within the family, not just divorce, but even parents are not able to communicate with the children. Children get alienated. All of that is happening because the capacity of love is gone. And I think parents have a chance to show that love, show that selfless love. And it happens through bhakti. I believe, even though I'm talking about all of this, until I personally started developing love of Bhagavan, I couldn't do that selfless love to the family, So it's bhakti teaches you how to love. When you start loving Bhagavan, and this is deliberately can be done. It's not like something it's born. Just like, for example, when we get married, we don't know this person that much. Yeah, we probably have met a few times, we get married, but by doing things for that person every day, by talking to that person every day, we develop love for that person. If we can do it to a human, a kind of a weak human with so many faults, we can definitely do it with Bhagavan. So and we'll again in a minute, I'll talk to you about this. By doing every day, by talking about Bhagwan, by reading stories of Bhagwan, by singing songs about Bhagwan, the children can develop, and they do feel that every day. It's possible to develop. Let me show you some ideas about how to do that later. And then finally, aiming for harmony, like we talked about. Thousand things will go wrong around us, right? Around in the world. In Hindu Dharma, we talk about this Adhyatmika, Adidevika, and Adibhautika problems. Problems are going to come all the time from the world, from people around us at work or at home or friends or whatever. And sometimes, often within us, we either fall physically sick or we are mentally troubled, whatever it is. All of that will happen. But in the middle of that, our job is to aim for that harmony and to raise about ourselves about that situation and say, this has happened, it's not in my control, but I'm going to aim for harmony within myself and within my family, and whenever possible within society, with friends or whatever, right? And that is a goal it is worth working for our own sake, which also will manifest in society. So here is a few things which we'll talk about how to do all of this, right? These are goals basically. And the way I'm thinking is I created this kind of a structure. So it's a 3S plan, I'm calling it. What is a 3S plan? There are three things, aspects to it. Swadhyaya, which is study, right? This is every day, learn more about Hindu Shastras, learn more about, values, definitely our huge corpus of Itihasa, Purana, Hindu history, biographies, everything, right? Now, what happens is the more you study, the stories are very, very powerful, as you all know. And I think Saranya was talking that she does storytelling as well. Stories are very powerful. You'll remember stories for a long time. Teach the children the stories, but later when we start exploring the stories, they will understand, it will stay with them. So every day, stories, Swadhyaya. And secondly, sadhana. Every day, consistently, a small daily sadhana. We do so many things. You start with 5 minutes every day, that's enough. Like, I'll just to use my example, morning, the children are not supposed to come, like when they get up, they do some and prayer. I think they do, I don't know. But at the least, I know when they come down, they come to a Bhagwan and they do a prostration, they put a bhasma there and they sit down and do a little pranayama, and then they come for breakfast, right? Simple things like that. And the evening, as much as possible, I sit down definitely. Whoever is in, like, I know children have multiple classes and all of that, but whoever is at home comes and sits for a prayer. And no dinner without that child. Wherever they go, they come back, they have to do something and do it, right? Small things you can do, light the lamp, whatever it works for in your situation. Managing mind, definitely with developing bhakti, japa, dhyana, we can definitely include japa and dhyana. I wish I had started much early. I didn't start early. My children are lucky that way, they have started early. But that is a great way to focus the mind and center the mind back. We all celebrate festivals, no doubt. We're all like, these days, everything is done with pop and show, but let's also find the meaning behind them. I think it's a great chance. Like when we do Shivaratri, the week before or 2 weeks before, we start talking about Shivaratri. We start talking about what it means. We start observing some things. Every day, we learn. Every year around Shivaratri, we'll try to learn one Shiva Stotra. And my children now probably know 10 Shiva Stotras, right? Because every year we do that, we add to it. And the thirdly, which you had already talked about, I think Jay mentioned, is we can do all of this, but in today's world, especially the children want more of the peer support than family support. After a point, they value their friends more than their family. So, which means we need to form a satsang, a support group. And the support group will help us wear our Hindu identity. We'll wear our clothes, tilak, or, use Hindu words comfortably. Now, like my daughter tells me, I'm scared of using these words. But thankfully, she's finding a group where they talk about sadhana, they talk about japa. So so that's giving her a lot of power, whereas she would be shy about doing it earlier. And then learn to do seva. I think it's a great opportunity for children to do seva, volunteer in some temples or Hindu organizations. Find and take the time. Not everything will be clear cut, okay? Because this is Hindu Dharma, unlike other thing, it's not congregational. So you have to find a way to do it. Maybe you go to a temple and say, can I clean the temple today? Or can I don't know, change the light bulb or whatever is possible. Encourage the children to join some Hindu satsang organizations. Especially in college, I would say whenever your child is ready to go to college, send them only to a college where there is a satsang of some kind, like either a Chinmay Mission group or a Hindu Yuva or whatever it is. We can't be too picky. Go send them only to colleges where that was one of the research I did, is I didn't want my child to go to a college where it may be the greatest college possible, but I wanted it to be an atmosphere where she can have some common interests and common people. And then as far as that's concerned, it's good, but all of you, and I know some of you said you have children and they're 15 and all of that's a very, very busy time, right? The school work is too much, a lot of, exams and all of that's very difficult. And most cases, if you're also, both the parents are working, it becomes very, very difficult. So what I do is, I think we have to, if this is a priority, we have to create the right conditions for it. Because it's you can't just wish, oh yeah, I agree, japa has to happen, puja has to happen. But frankly, in the busy schedules of our lives, it takes a back seat. So how do you bring it to the first thing is to make a plan and ensure that it helps us be successful. So a few ideas I have, again, is to keep the altar in the main area. Don't hide it. What people I've seen do is they put it in some faraway room or in the basement in the US, or it's in some cabinet and the door is closed and all, and this is forgotten. Bhagwan is not in your mind. And as you're running, you have 2 minutes, you have some class or some test, it takes a back seat. So put it in a place where it's visible. Even if it's small, it's fine, but it's a place where you can, it's visible and where you can sit together and do something. So, frankly, who comes in these days? Nobody comes. It's our house. We do what we want with it. Keep the supplies very handy. Don't, like, life is in some people, because I'm saying all of this because in an earlier workshop, there were all kinds of these kind of objections came, like, oh, it's very difficult, they have class and all this. Keep life simple, keep the things handy. I have my own little cabinet, in fact, even a tray with everything I need for a simple puja, raisins or something for Naivedyam, something simple. Keep the books in handy. Take some time to print out or organize every book for one for everybody in the family. No devices, because every time we do a device, there is some other distraction. So just a little bit of time you spend, everything is available online. You can print out whatever Ishta slokas you want or mantras you want. Delegate a lot. Have the children do a lot of the work. They can get flowers, they can light the lamps, you can ask them to make some simple Naivedyam as they grow up. So all of this, what happens is, like I said earlier, bhakti doesn't happen in, like, just because you say have bhakti to Bhagwan. You make them do it. You make them like, okay, Janmashtami is coming. I want you to do the kheer. I want you to, pick the flowers. Why don't you try a rangoli for, Krishna? So what happens is the more they do things around it, they start developing internally a subconscious connection to the Devata, right? They have a subconscious connection, like, Ganesh Chaturthi, they make their own Ganesha with the clay and all. They develop a connection to it. That is how we all grew. It's not like one day we suddenly had bhakti. We kept doing it, we kept observing it, and we fall. So similarly, we should get them to do it as much as possible. Like similarly, do entire thing. So now, having done this, my children they do most of it. They can do Ashtotram also. They can sometimes do the entire puja. I'll let my children, like, okay, today it's your turn. You do the puja. They use the book, which is fine. But they can do it and feel. And again, one of the things is, as they are learning, is to not stress too much. If it may not be perfect, but you sure go with the flow and they will learn. It's better to have steady progress and harmony. The process should be joyous. It should not be torturous. Oh my God, mom is telling me and I got to do it. Should be fun. So you have to make a little adjustments here and there as they grow to develop that thing. Okay, and so I would say, I told you the SSS, the Swadhyaya Sadhana and the Satsang. Think about it consciously and put some ideas together. Like, what can you do? What can you do for the Swadhyaya? This year I'm going to study this summer holidays. I've told my youngest daughter, she's 12. I've given her Rajaji's Mahabharata book and said, this is she has read smaller versions, Amar Chitrakatha before, but this summer she's going to read the Rajaji Mahabharata in detail. So it's a good idea to encourage them, have a plan for every year, what you're going to do. So with that, what I thought is, as the age grows, different things can be focused on. So initially, the focus is more on fun. They should feel by the time they are 5, They should know that they are Hindus and Hinduism is joyous, right? It's full of fun. How do you do that is really celebrate the festivals, puja, and make it fun for them. And our puja, they're so beautiful. They're for all the senses, right? Like, they dress them up, put nice tilak on them, flowers and incense, make nice prasad, get them to sing and dance and everything, visit temples. So the whole concept until 5 is to build on their subconscious that this is actually a fun religion or a fun, culture. Then when we go to 5 to 10 is the time where their imagination starts blooming. So that's a great time to build all these stories, like entire thing is storytelling. Thankfully, we have enormous amount of stories. We can build an Amachitrakatha library in the house. Of course, all kinds of stories from Itihasa Purana, Mahatmas. What I like to do is to not just tell the stories or read the stories, but get them to tell, so they retell the stories. We also do a lot of skits, I go to Chinmaya Mission, so we do a lot of skits where the children act it out. And then now there are so many videos and a lot of things that we can also use. Optionally, great idea to enroll them in some kind of an Indian music or dance or Hindu organization, because the peer networks start building, so they don't feel they're alone anymore. 10 to 15 is, I like to call, the practicals phase. This is when, this whole this is where the questions and all will come. Why should I do? So that is the time to tell them, no, it's you start doing it. They're capable of it. So they become more comfortable with the rituals. And even in the early, when they leave the house, they may leave it for some time, but they're very comfortable with it. They come back. I remember a story from Swami Tejamananda. He says he went to a house where that boy, he was a late teen boy, I believe, and he had never even done namaskar for a long time. Like the parents had not asked him to even bow down to God. Maybe, I don't know what the situation was. So suddenly he went to their house, and the mother is telling the son to bow down to Swamiji, and the son is not able to do. He doesn't know what to do. And the mom is telling, no, bow down, bow down. He's like, Mom, what are you saying? So that connection is lost. So Guruji was saying, get them to do namaskar at home every day to God, to the Bhagwan, but also to the parents. So my husband and I, we didn't do that for a long time, for the last 5-6 years. Not every day, but at least, like every time we do a puja or every like festival or something, we ask ourselves, like you do to us also, because the children have to feel, the body, mind has to feel comfortable with doing that. So this is the time for practicals. Okay, so they can do a lot. They can do the puja, they can do daily yoga, pranayama, japa. You can give them a nice japamala. We have our japamala, they keep it in the puja altar itself. Then we can start slowly discussing the meaning of the rituals, shlokas, and how, even the puja, like we say, avahanam, we invite, even though Bhagavan is right here in us, he's everywhere, we invite Bhagavan to come into that vigraha and we give him a seat, just like we'll do, like, we say if somebody important comes, what will we do? We're going to do the same thing, So what happens is the children keep doing it. They do Abhishekam. In our house, we do Somavara Abhisheka. Every Monday we do thing. Children have developed a connection to that. They have done, every time they do Abhishekam also. So now they're very comfortable doing it, right? Will they always do it? I don't know. But from my standpoint, I've given them a sense of comfort about it. So hopefully they'll continue in the future. I would also say periodic havan at home, because what happens is we have this whole tradition of yajnas, which are for loka kalyanam, right? It's for the whole good of the whole world. We can explain that. And now there are some pandits who are very good at explaining also how it's not like by giving this, we are actually, it's good for the whole world, and how we do that. Pilgrimages also is a good idea. But after 15 is when all the doubt, skepticism, all this friends, peer influence starts coming in. That's where we can really, embark on a good study of Gita, Yoga Sutras, mind management. And for that, we have to first get intelligent about it, right? So I would say, if you are not studying, you should embark on a study, and at least a basic study of the Gita, any kind of Shastra, whatever. I'm not here, I follow Advaita Vedanta, but it doesn't matter. Whatever parampara you are in, try to do a study of that parampara. I'm sure there are some gurus who you follow. Definitely do a study of that, so that you can be intelligent about it and pass it on to the children, have the discussion later. Actually, I feel I've benefited more from parenting than my children, because through them, we study and we explore so that it actually benefits us as well. Discuss often and how it relates to life. Now, the important thing is, as they, like I said earlier, even when we are watching a movie or when we are, discussing something in the newspaper or something they see on social media, I'm able to relate it to the Gita. Like you say, see what happened. And the recent Veda Indic Academy lecture that I had on Vedanta, that's what I had quoted some examples. We watched a movie and I was able to say, oh, this is exactly the Gita verse. This is how this, see this character is just like that. So we can keep making the connection. Similarly, when we talk about, like yesterday, this Father's Day, we were talking about 50% divorce rates. Why is that happening? See, the duty should be there. The selfless love should be there, that we are taught in Hinduism, right? So these, I would say, are stages of parenting where you can kind of, so at the end of it, right, by the time they leave the house, 18, 19, whatever age they are, they should feel that Hinduism is joyous. They should feel that it has something of value to offer. They should develop some kind of connection to devatas and gurus. It may not be full mature bhakti, but at least some shraddha. They should be comfortable doing rituals. I mean, they shouldn't feel that it's some strange, like antiquated thing. And finally, they should understand the philosophy so that they can live a good, fruitful life. So that is kind of what I thought. And then as part of that, so many of us do this. So some parents are asking, I did all of that. I did do puja and all of this, but they're still not convinced. Is I think what is missing is candid conversations. These days, the children are very, very smart. They are encouraged to talk about everything in school. They are encouraged to explore, think, debate. So for them, it's like I told earlier, if they have unanswered questions, we need to address it. So I suggest, we talk to them a lot. Small nuggets, don't need big lectures. Just a little casual conversation is fine. No question is wrong. Don't put down any question. Treat it very seriously. Take it casual tone. I'm sure all of you with children know, if you start being preachy to them, they shut off. So just a casual tone, and don't expect to give the answer right away. We can do it over time. The whole answer doesn't. So you say it, and by the way, then a few months later, remember we talked about it. This is a continuation of that, right? If unable to answer, be honest and study together. There are a lot of resources available. And then grab the moment. Yes, sometimes we can sit in front of Bhagwan and do it, but often we cannot. So just use any moment when we are going for a walk, in the car, or even during dinner. So don't use. And some of the do's and don'ts I have, use the Hindu words. Ideally, like, don't translate to English always. They'll get used to it. They can easily pick it up. Like I said, when discussing anything, tie it to Hindu thought. Go where they are. These days, if it's easier to, like, I send them off and I send them something on social media. I mean, sorry, a text, like I say, hey, this is a quote from this guru, or, by the way, the new story that I saw in like the Indic Academy or whatever it is, some story about Hanumanji or whatever. Lot of sprinkle. So they get very familiar, sprinkle all the stories. And to do that, we need to study, but use stories from Itihasa, Purana, saint stories to illustrate any points in the conversation. So we all talk about it. Like, for example, you say, see, don't be like Shalya. Shalya took, he took food from Kauravas, so he had to now support the Kauravas. So, a lot of stories, small stories like that we can use. Like I said earlier, enable peer groups. They need those friends. So we have to cultivate friends who are also similarly thinking. And the best way to do that is to join an organization, like a spiritual organization. Then the same friends you will have, the family, they become family friends as well. Then learn meanings of the shlokas in small doses. So one of the things I do is, when we are chanting a whole thing, we don't have time. Nobody has the patience or the time. So let's say we are doing Hanuman Chalisa. I'll say, okay, pick a number from 1 to 40, and they'll say, I don't know, 26. Then the child reads the meaning of that particular, Chalisa, and then we discuss it, right? So we can do small things to make it fun. Any questions? I have just a couple of slides more, but what to say? I've noticed some comments here. Okay, very good. Japa pranayama, very good. Yeah, thank you. So wish we had something. Yeah, we know we need something more. We need more content, but thankfully it's all coming. We have more, media content, YouTube channels coming up. I think there are some, Vinodji is saying, I think there are some toolkits and organization working to divert our kids. Yeah. A lot of this, this attacking ours is a huge issue. This what is called the Hindu phobia here. All the American and Western Indology departments, they've just screwed up. And sometimes when I read about their art, when I read their articles, it's cringy. Like I feel like crying because they've twisted everything. It's really, really bad. So, which is why we need to arm our children to really do that. One of the things I would strongly advise, especially if either your children are in the West or going to college in the West, is to avoid all these religious courses. They go to comparative religion course, and it's all twisted. So very, very concerning. So I had a child who went to that course, and she has completely lost her, Shraddha in anything Hindu. So yeah, it's a huge problem. We'll talk about some of these in the next session, Vinodji, in next Saturday. So some questions which some parents asked in the last sessions, which I kind of thought I'll give an answer to. And these are the kind of things we discuss in the WhatsApp group as well. So one common question is, I don't believe in gods like Ganesha and Krishna. So this child is saying, I do believe in God, but like some energy and not these forms, right? So, like I said earlier, we believe our rishis have visualized these forms and we are capable of visualizing them. But to explain to the children, we say, hey, you use forms all the time, right? We use forms. Why do you have a name for a school? Why do you need? You can just say, I'm going to school. You have a name for a school, you have a street name. This is a selfie generation. They keep taking photos and selfies. We keep doing that. We all need, our mind needs forms and names. We need it. Otherwise, like, why do you have a name for a friend? You can just, so names and forms are part of our existence. Very, very evolved people, our rishis, they can connect to the formless God, that we call Brahman and all that. You can try it if you wish, but we cannot. Because Bhagavan Krishna also says, as long as we are very materialistic or we are connected to our body, we cannot visualize that, we cannot even connect to that formless Bhagavan, that energy that you call it. We cannot do it. It's a big struggle. That's why we are asked to go step by step in the ladder. There is a beautiful shloka, Pratamam Pratima Puja, Dvitiyam Pratikam. There is a shloka that goes like that, which basically says, initially start with the forms of God, beautiful forms. We can connect, we can develop devotion, we can listen to the stories. And then slowly you can, as you grow, evolve, you can use pratika, which are symbols, like the Shivalinga or the Saligrama for Vishnu, or Meru for Devi, and so on. And later, or even rivers and mountains, like Tulsi Upasana, people do, right? So we can do that. But finally, we can use Pranava. We don't need any form or thing. We can go to Pranava mantra and then formless God. We can do that. But why do you want to skip a step? Because it's helpful, right? It's very helpful to do that. Okay. So this is one common question. The other common question, what did I do? Oh, I just jumped. Okay, sorry. What is the purpose of rituals, right? Like, and this is also something kids are like, what is all these rituals? And even recently we had a wedding and the kids were questioning a lot of them. Some of them we are able to tell why. Some of them, frankly, they're traditions that have come down, right? We can't really explain everything, or I can't. So what do I say? I said, we have rituals everywhere, right? Right from your, school, you have cheerleading and school spirit wear, you're taking selfies, your birthday parties. Why do you have a certain way to do a birthday party? Why can't you do it another way? Because you're following some tradition. These are very recent tradition, right? Like a birthday party with cake and candle. Like which Shastra says that? It's a recent tradition, but you still follow it. So graduation, you wear the cap and you throw the cap. All of these aren't they rituals? They are recent rituals which are done for a certain purposes, no doubt very fun. But these rituals, the modern rituals, they are for fun, no doubt, do have them, but they also don't cause any major improvement in us, right? They often leave behind dissatisfaction, arrogance, jealousy, every birthday party, after that, everything. It's fun, no doubt. But whereas the rituals around bhakti can actually elevate you, they can make you calmer, they can fill your mind with love. With a little effort, they can make, you can actually develop love for Devata. So this is something you have to try. If you don't try, you can't do it, right? So that's one question. Another common question I was told is, why should I follow religion? Is it just enough to be good and kind? That sounds very nice, but our minds are very susceptible to weakness and influence. Life is very long. Like I said earlier, problems are going to come. Okay, let's be honest. There's no person who's not going to have any kind of problems in life. there'll be confusions. Should I do this or that, like Arjuna had? Why not prepare for that? And there are tried and tested ways, millennia now. Don't we ask for advice on medical help? Similarly, we are taking help from our gurus and rishis who have formulated these practice for millennia. Try them. If it doesn't work out, it's fine, but what's wrong with not using them? Like, what's the problem with using them, right? So I think the reason I'm keeping this casual is I don't want to sound preachy to the children. If you sound preachy, they're going to shut off. So the casual conversations is what I'm aiming for here. As they grow older, you can start citing all the shastras and all of that. So with that, we come to the end of this session. Any questions, feedback? Let me see. Yes, we had that. And Sangeet Ji is saying how to deal with marriage influence. A lot of marriage. I'm not going there yet. I'm more dealing with youth issues. But if there are any specific things, I have some articles written. I can share them with you later in the WhatsApp group or via email. These are very individual situations I don't want to handle. I just want to give some general advice using Gita, for example, how to, build selfless love and the whole point of marriage. And I think this is also the Karma, the Hindu way I wanted to do the workshop on it, is basically now the marriages, the children going in, and even adults, even us, right? We go into it expecting we are going to get something out of it, right? There's a very different way to look at marriage. The Vivaha Sutras, for example, what they talk about is, this is irrespective of that person, irrespective of how that person is going to be, the spouse is going to be, whether that person is going to care for me or love me or do stuff or not do stuff or whatever, irrespective of that, I'm going to love and I'm going to care. It is a big sacrifice in a way, right? You're committing to it, saying, I will do it. And I'm not saying that you have to put up with abuse or you have to put up with, violence and all that. I'm not saying that. But sometimes what is happening is because we are not strong, because we are feeling unfulfilled and incomplete and all of that, we expect that marriage to fix that situation for us. Will not happen. Whereas what we were told in the Vivaha Sutras is, you go in as a strong person, you build yourself as a strong person. That person also has on their own journey, right? It's not like just because you marry somebody who's like, I don't know, 25, 28, 30, whatever it is. It's not like that person is some great person. They are also going to go through the journey of life. They have their own imperfections. They have to develop. We have to develop. In that process, it's not going to be smooth. If you're expecting something from that person, it's not going to be smooth. The point is, can you find a way where you both collaborate on improving yourself together and going? That is what we call by, the Sahadharmini, right? Like Dharmachari, Sahadharmacharini, is that the two of them should go together. They will grow in the process. Emotionally, they will grow. Spiritually, they will grow. Can we support each other and move on while dealing with both of our imperfections? That person will have an imperfection today. We have to deal with that. Now I will have an imperfection that person has to deal with. But can we commit to a joint journey together where we will together improve each other and put aside all these small things that will come in life? That's a big undertaking. It requires a certain amount of strength. And if the children don't go in with that strength, they go in thinking somehow this marriage partner is going to solve my incompleteness, and is not going to happen, because that person is as imperfect as us. So that is why I think this bhakti and knowledge will really help us be much more, I'm not saying, I'm great or something, but what we have done is, irrespective of all the arguments and difference of opinion, I'm committed to this marriage because I'm going to grow and I'm going to help this person grow. But it's a long topic and it's very individual. So I don't want to do individual marriage counseling. That's just my overall, thing on this. Okay. Prahlaji is saying excellent framework, lots of sharing for parents. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I hope it was helpful. Yeah. Yes, thanks a lot. This is the beginning of a journey. I'm in the process of putting all this together in a book. Unfortunately, I'm struggling because there's too much material, but hopefully I'll get there. So appreciate all your inputs. So please do join next week. And we can, next week is really around the external side, like what is the Hindu perception, the attacks, and some of the thoughts about casteism and sati and all of this. So we'll get to that next week. So we can wrap up today. Thanks a lot again. Namaste, Hari Om. Namaste.
Thank you, Hari Om.
Welcome.